Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Rural Water. We're talking about rural water today with Chief Sean Ralston from Buena Vista Volunteer Fire Department in Buena Vista, Georgia. And today, Chief's going to be teaching us a little bit about how their department is using FlowMSP to create pre-incident plans for their rural water supply. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And this webinar is being recorded, and it will be available on YouTube later on today. So, Chief, will you tell me a little bit about your water supply in Buena Vista? What are you guys looking at?
We do have hydrants. We have actually three separate water systems. We have one in the city. We have one that covers the southern part of our county and one that covers the northern end of our county. We can interconnect them all if we need to by switching valves. We have about 583 hydrants total between all of it, but we're covering about 364 square miles with that.
What other type of water sources are around?
We have some large lakes here available. We do not have any rivers in our county, but we do have some large creeks and streams. And like I said, we do have several large man-made lakes, reservoirs that have been created on properties here in the county. And then we have our ability to shuttle water by tankers.
Okay, so you're dealing with a mix of hydranted and unhydranted areas. So you're kind of using a combination of hydrants and natural water supply depending on the situation?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So why is your department taking the time right now to create pre-incident plans for your water supply?
We started with this with the Flow program, doing our pre-fire plans, as I reckon everybody else is doing. And it's a really good program, and it's we're still getting our feet wet on it, but it's a good program, works for us. And we just come up with a recent situation that kind of shows us the importance of having knowledge of our rural water supplies. The northern half of our county has been without water, a very spotty water supply for about the last 3 weeks. So we haven't been able to use any of our hydrants in that northern section of the county due to low water pressure or no water at all. And having this already in place where we can draft water from these large bodies of water is one of those things that would be beneficial if we've come to the point yet. But we haven't had to, fortunately, in these 3 weeks, but we have our resources here and we've planned, and that's why it's good to pre-plan this stuff, because you may become dependent upon having hydrants. And I think a lot of us do. And when we get to that day where we don't have a hydrant and we're having to draft and we haven't trained and practiced drafting and we don't know where our water supplies are, how to get to them, or how to set up our relays, it becomes really, really difficult to be efficient in shuttling this, because especially in a volunteer service where you're not paid, you're not there every day, so you're just having to kind of get thrown into the fire here and figure out what you're doing as you go, unless you've got something like this already in place.
So, Chief, do you feel like pretty much any fire chief at a volunteer fire department is going to have the knowledge of how to do a proper, relay shuttle or things like that, that they would be able to create a pre-incident plan like this that would be effective for all the volunteers to follow?
I believe any department or any chief can do that. It's a little learning curve here, but I think when people see some things that we've done, hopefully that'll be beneficial to them. And we would readily accept some advice from anybody that's using this program that may try to do their own rural pre-fire plan, pre-water planning. But the program is fairly easy to use. I think most anybody can create a pre-incident plan with their water supply with this. Fairly easy.
Great. Well, are you ready to kind of show us what you've created and talk us through your pre-plans?
Yes, ma'am. Let me get my screen shared up here. I will give you a little aerial view of one of our large lakes here. This is from Google Earth, and it's a rather large lake. And you have road access coming off of here, down here. And what we've done is, so this is a view from the highway down into the area. The dry hydrant is right off here around these trees. You can see this is a road bed. They've used some tailings or millings from a road construction park to try to make a little bit better roadway for them. And this is gated, but we do have access. We have keys. We have agreements with all of our citizens where we have installed dry hydrants over the years, or we have access to come in and establish a drafting scenario if we need to. So you can see we've used the hydrant marker here to mark this hydrant right here, and we indicate it as a dry hydrant, where it's at on the lake. And I'm going to walk you through some of the things we've done here as we've tried to establish this. So once you do your diagram of your water source and get a square footage or square acreage, you can easily calculate roughly what you think your water volume might be here. So I calculated this area to an average depth of about 2 feet. So there's almost 8.3 million gallons of water available here that you could draft out of this one source if you needed to. Now, utilizing the tools that are available in the Flow program, you see here, we created this blue rectangle right here, and then you can see my tag up here. To utilize law enforcement or fire vehicles to slow down or warn traffic, and we also did it down here at this road intersection. Because this is a state highway that we're going to be accessing this from, and we're in a curve and we're on a downhill too. So that was one of the things we've added in here. And if we don't have law enforcement, then we can always use a fire apparatus to do the same thing, just to try to slow some people down. Some of the notes I did here, the red rectangles indicate your fire apparatus. So as you see, this first new one that would come in would stay right here. We'd want them to stay up on this hard packed paved area and extend their drafting hose out here and hook to the hydrant. And this particular one, we established this way to keep the trucks more towards the highway and not pounding up this driveway. And, you know, you're going to have some water down here, and eventually you may get this soft and you can run the risk of sinking an apparatus out here. So we just tried to minimize the number of apparatus we got down by the water itself. So you see here, this first in truck apparatus, when it come in, it was going to start here at the roadway laying 300 feet of 5-inch LDH, which we carry on several of our trucks here, and lay it back to where it's going to position for drafting. And then it would hook up and draft, and then it could pump its water to here. And we have a water thief, which has the 5-inch LDH hooked to it. We have a 5-inch stores, and we can do the 4 2.5 connections off of it. So we could actually fill 5 apparatus at one time if we needed to off this, if we could stage them up along the roadway. Here we indicated we wanted to back this apparatus in, so it's got an easier access back out onto the highway. We could pull in here like this and circle around and come back out, but just trying to be mindful of our citizens' property, try not to damage it any more than possible. That's why we decided here in this situation, we pull in and back in here. And then they can drop their short fill line from here to the water thief and start filling their apparatus, while we could still keep this apparatus pumping and not lose our draft. We could just use our deck gun to spray water back into the pond, the catch basement there, so we're not just running it out on the ground. And then we can just keep cycling trucks in and out of here the best way we needed to. So these are fairly easy as you're designing them, as you're trying to lay them out. So you would just right click. Not sure how familiar people are with the program, but if you would just add a hydrant and you got your longitude, latitude, you do an address for it. And this indicate that you do have a dry hydrant going here and not a wet hydrant. So it's going to give you a different icon. And see, I just added a hydrant out there. So you can easily delete these if you need to. And just as with using the program to click on the corners of a building and calculate your square footage, that's what we did here. We just did the pre-print a location. And what I will do is I'm going to use this section right here, even though it's not a water source, just to kind of roughly show you how we did the water source. It is not the most precise in the world, but it gives you a reasonable expectation. But once you do this, just like we did this one up here, drawing again, stop the drawings. Let's X about that.
There we go.
There we go. As you see here, once you click on your area that you pre-fire planned or pre-water source you plan here, it's over 500,000 square feet here. And of course, you're going to disregard this required flow. This might be something that Flow looks at incorporating later on. Take a couple of tweaks of things to get rid of some of this, but it works well. So we got this much square footage, and I said I went online and used a calculator to calculate how much volume of water was in there. So
Yeah, this kind of way of doing it, Chief, that you came up with, it's pretty unique. Like, I haven't seen any of our other customers pre-planning a water source like you've done with the square footage. So we're actually thinking of building that on the product side to where you can outline it and it'll calculate those things. So you've kind of inspired our developers to figure out how to build it in so it's intentionally for that.
Right. And then I'm going to go back right here for a second, Julie. And all of these rectangles and lines and text boxes, are available in the tools as you're pre-planning a source, a building. It's quite easy to click on that, add a shape or add a rectangle and draw it and change the colors. See, we did these in red and our fire hose is yellow. And from the other picture, we outlined our little police cars in blue. So there's several tools on there to aid you in getting that on there. That's how we've started pre-planning our rural water sources here in our county, in our jurisdiction. And, it's readily available. All our people that they have it on their phone and they can pull it up. And this program overall has been working well for us. We're starting to integrate in. That is just kind of the down and dirty, easy way of if we found to pre-plan these and give your personnel some notes and stuff, because the notes we have in there, that's something that we probably wouldn't think of as we're running to a call and we'll all would pile in there in one spot. But if we've got this already ahead, everybody knows what we're doing. And once or twice a year, we do an actual drafting here and go around and flush out our dry hydrants. So that's something you need to keep incorporated into your planning too.
Now, Chief, how would you use this pre-plan for training for your department?
Well, you can use this just as we've done here. We can pull up one and display it on a TV screen that we'll use for training and walk them through our pictures and attachments and how we went about positioning the apparatus and laying out lines and how to set up our relay shuttle. So it ties in, and then we could take, after we're through with this classroom part, we can go out and go on the site and actually stage our vehicles and set up a pump and do a draft from there. But today, with the ease of computers and everything, we could just take our laptop out to the scene and set up and let everybody gather around and show them how we did it, and of course get input from them as other information they might see that's useful to put on there.
Now, Chief, how would you update these pre-plans? Say you did come up with a different tactic you wanted to use or something, what would you do?
We would go in and modify our notes. You can just edit the pre-plan. If it was something we just needed to just completely revamp, we could completely delete this and just start over from the beginning on this. Several of my users have the ability to do everything with FlowMSP, and those are the ones that are usually going to go in and change some things.
Do you have to redistribute this after you update it or anything? Like, how do you get it to everybody once it's been updated?
Once it's updated in here, once we update it, it's automatically, just like your building pre-fires, it automatically updates in the system, and when they click on it. As a general rule, though, if we have a major change in anything, we have about 57 volunteers here, and not only are we using this, but we use another app too, and we just send out a message alert that we've made some modifications to this location or to this building, and take a look at it. And if you have any questions or you have any suggestions, please give us some feedback back to one of us chiefs, and we'll go in and look at it and see if we need to add something else to it.
Would definitely want to thank Chief Ralston for sharing his pre-plans with us today. Thank you, Chief, for taking the time to go through everything. And hopefully this information will help rural fire departments think about water supply in a different way, and just how they can be proactive on creating a plan ahead of time, distributing it to the whole department so everybody's on the same page. So then, when you do get that call, God forbid, you know what you're doing and everything goes well. All right.
Thank you for asking me here today to do this, and enjoyed doing this. And if anybody has any questions later on or anything, they're more than welcome to contact me or suggestions.